My name is Neil Stahl, and this is my discussion board Module 16 video submission. Before starting this chapter, what were your individual perceptions of psychology and what psychologists do? And I'm going to simply answer each question, each portion of this question as I read that portion of the question. So, perceptions of psychology and what psychologists do. Myself personally, I've had a more intimate relationship with psychology and psychologists as I've been involved with therapy quite literally, cognitive behavioral therapy, I suppose, at a very young age. I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. At that age, it's hard to understand exactly what it is that they're supposed to do. But as I got older, I came to recognize that these were people who, at least for myself personally, would allow me to be aware of myself and the things that I think and the things that I feel and my reactions to those, etc., in a way that perhaps I wasn't capable of doing myself. Those same people, for me, gave me the ability to have a sounding board for the things that I think and the things that I experience mentally and emotionally, so that I could place them, on the spectrum of reality. So that's been my individual perception of what they do in psychology as their vehicle for accomplishing that, their tool for helping assist with that aid of awareness and thinking and feeling. Did your mental picture of psychology focus more on its negative aspects or more on the positive aspects? This is one of those questions that it's difficult for me to answer because I don't feel like it's either of those things, so much as I think once I came to recognize what psychology and my interaction with psychologists would be for me, that I couldn't focus too much on either one or the other. I had to recognize both the positive aspects of what psychology was or wasn't. I had to recognize both the positive and negative aspects of the things that I was being exposed to in those interactions, how they affected myself for those interactions outside of that. My whole experience with psychology has been such that I've had to perceive it from both as adequately as I could, from both perspectives of the negative and the positive, so that I could have as accurate of a perspective as possible on what was going on. Do you think that positive psychology is just a passing fad in psychology, or is it the beginning of a fundamental shift in how psychology studies human behavior? I do not think that this is just a passing fad. I do believe that this is going to be a fundamental shift in how we look at human behavior. And I say that because now the things that will be producing, very simply, that which will be producing new thought concerning what psychology is or could be, and how people's brains and minds and emotions work together and separately, this is the new thing that's forcing new thought, that's forcing, creating yet another fashion in which we can perceive ourselves and our environment. And I think that it can be, potentially will be significant enough that it will not be something that we'll see meander off into non-existence. I think that's because people will come to realize the power that there is sometimes in simply just the silver lining. Just to kind of wrap this up, our book speaks very specifically to what positive psychology is. Social and intellectual movement within the discipline of psychology that focuses on human strengths and how people can flourish and be successful. Wheaton et al., 2018, I believe. It's easier to focus on the positive things. It makes us feel better to focus on the positive things. And I think just that change in perspective in mind, change in perspective, hopefully that added mindfulness, it's going to make it easier for people to see change in their lives, because they'll just be happier, even if that's not always realistic or seems like what should be most necessary. And I think that's going to be primarily the reason that this continues to be something that's studied and focused on. There's one other individual source that I had.
Yeah, Big Al, man, that's one of my favorite rappers. I mean, that's really who I was listening to. Lifestyles of Poor and Dangerous when I was 15 years old. I got street strut.
Although the jury is still out on the clinical impact of positive psychology, leaders in the field are encouraging patients and clinicians to give positive techniques a try. And to me, this is from healthandharvard.edu, an article on positive psychology. And I think as you see clinicians and psychologists legitimately adapting this version of psychology to what they're doing with their clients, it's going to ensure that this isn't something that is simply just a passing fad. So again, my name is Neil Stahl. This is my video submission for Module 16. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen.